So in my last video, I gave you a rundown of a conventional septic system, some general tips and tricks, how it works. And a lot of y'all in the comments had started asking, well, what about aerobic septic systems? Now, the main difference between a conventional septic system and an aerobic septic system is in the name, aerobic. There is actually oxygen pushed into this system that helps speed up the treatment of the waste inside of the septic system. So if you want to look with me right now, there is our aerobic septic system. You can see it has risers all the way to the surface, and that is because these systems have to be inspected quarterly. So that means someone will come over here, open up all the lids, take levels, and see how much buildup is in them. And they have to be pumped out at a certain point. The main reason is because in this compartment right here, you have a pump that then pushes the wastewater, the treated wastewater, over to sprinkler heads. So that is discharging treated wastewater above ground. So when you're dealing with that, you want to make sure this is properly treated. So what are all these compartments? What are all these components, and what do they do? So we've got the home over there. It's going to have a clean out, and then it's first going to enter this first compartment. Now that is the trash tank, as it's generally called in our area. So that's where everything comes into first. There's a concrete wall, then it goes over to the aerator. That compressor, you can see that little PVC pipe right there, is plumbed into that. And what it's doing is it's forcing oxygen into the septic system and agitating the wastewater. And what that's doing is creating the perfect breeding ground for bacteria and enzymes to boost, speed up the treatment of the wastewater. So as that is being aerated, it's then going to pass under a concrete wall and settle out over here in the clarifier. As water is being used, it's going to move over and through this liquid bleach or chlorine tabs. It just depends on your system, but that's generally what we see in our area. The aerator itself is actually doing a majority of the treatment. This is just an extra disinfectant before it gets sprayed out. So you want to make sure you get this inspected and pumped out when your inspector says so, or else you're going to have to worry about replacing your pump when it burns up, because those are only rated to pump out water. Once you start adding more stuff into it, it makes it harder and harder on the pump. It heats up, doesn't work as efficiently, and it will burn up. And then we got our panel over here. It has these alarm lights on the top, and that you need to pay attention to. If you start hearing this siren going off and these alarm lights going off, that means either your compressor isn't working or you have an issue with your pump. Your pump, I'll show you here in a little bit, is going to have some floats on it. And those floats, we got one, when the water in this tank gets high enough, it will set off an alarm float, and that's going to tell you that, hey, the water shouldn't be this high, it should be pumping it out, so something's wrong. And then you've also got a float that actually kicks on the pump itself. So as you're using water in the home and it makes it over here, once it gets to a certain depth, it's going to flip that float and kick on your pump until it gets low enough, and then it's going to stop. And that's just so that this pump isn't just constantly pushing out water the entire day, because it'd be impossible. I mean, as it's going to run dry, it's going to get to the bottom eventually, and you don't want this constantly working if it's not pumping anything. So let's get these lids popped open and see what it looks like on the inside. The inspector said it needs to be pumped out, so I'm assuming it's going to be pretty thick. All right, now we got the trash tank right here. Let's see what it looks like. Holy moly. Goodness gracious. Yep, I think it's about time. And this right here certainly wasn't helping. Good Lord. So yeah, I don't even need a sludge judge to look at that and tell you it needs pumping. All right, now we got our pump tank. Like I said, this should mostly be water. That's what it looks like. And you can see over here, those are our floats. So this top one right here, when the water gets to that point, it's gonna kick on that high water alarm. And that gray one down there, that's actually the float that kicks on the pump. So if you've got your alarm on the panel going off, you want to walk over to this chamber right here. If water is all the way up to this riser, you've got a problem with your pump or your sprinkler head or your float. So that's just one indicator, and that will let you know to call your service provider and let them come take a look at it. Now, if your house is clogged up, you're not able to flush, and you walk out and open this compartment and it's low like that, that means you just got a clog on the trash tank. So like I said, this is the first compartment of this system, so you can't even see the pipe right now. It's so thick in there. But yeah, you could you can get it unclogged from here without having to call. Well, you're going to want to call your service provider to get on the schedule for a pumping, but that would be something you can at least buy yourself some time with. And here is our aerator. That doesn't look like it's bubbling up too good. I bet if you want to put money on it that those diffusers down there are pretty dirty and it's not moving around like it should. So that'll actually cause the sprinklers to stink if it's not being properly agitated. A lot of people tend to blame the chlorine or the bleach for the smell, but it's actually at this point that it should be treated enough not to smell. And last but certainly not least, we have our clarifier. And you can see that is the final compartment before it goes over into our pump tank. So I'm going to go ahead and turn everything off before I pump this out. And on these aerobic septic systems, you do want to fill up the aeration chamber back up. The aerator itself has a sensor feeding back over here. So if this compressor doesn't have any back pressure from the water in that aeration chamber, it'll actually throw off the alarm. So it's actually detrimental to the system if you run that air compressor against nothing. So you want to make sure you fill that up with water. So that's that. Let's get it pumped out. Oh yeah, these are those flushables. They break down just like paper, is what they say. Even some got on my stinger. Good Lord. Look at all that buildup in there. Good gravy. That's a lot of sludge. I'm gonna get the water hose to rinse some of that down. In really rough shape. It's no wonder it wasn't bubbling. All nice and clean. So we got the aerator clean. Now let's move over and make sure the clarifier is clean. There's a slit under there into the clarifier, so I'm actually going to go over there and just run water down it, and it'll enter into this compartment right here. It's pretty narrow. Do not want sludge in this compartment. I can't stress that enough. That is the easiest way to get your pump to fill prematurely, is neglect pump outs and let that sludge get into here. Nice and clean. Snap a pic for the customer. Now for the fun part. Now we get to clean up that trash tank that I could almost stand on. And I know there's wipes in there. I know for a fact there's wipes in there. If I could give you any piece of advice, for those of you on aerobic septic systems, do yourself a favor and install a bidet on all of your toilets and get used to it. The trash tanks on these are so damn small, you will not have enough time for these flushable wipes to break down a bit. You can see as far as my legs are stretched out, that is the trash tank. So as you're using thick toilet paper, flushable wipes, even regular toilet paper, it's going to just build up and make a really thick crust. And you're gonna have to get these pumped out at least every 2 years or sooner. If you wanna get a lot longer between pump outs, switch to a bidet. No paper at all in these, unfortunately. I know a lot of y'all don't like to hear it, but if you look at the owner's manual on this aerobic septic system, they recommend pumping it out at least every 3 years. So the more and more you use thick paper, wipes, things like that, you're just decreasing that time you need between pump outs. So fun. Let's get this trash tank pumped out. smooth. A little bit of stuff stuck on the props, but I just kind of reverse the spin and it'll all fall off and I'll vacuum it out. All right, nice and clean. Get the walls rinsed down a little bit. Remember, I always say you're not going to eat off it, but you want to see that concrete. Very nice, I like. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. See reflection in there, almost. And then back to filling up the aerator. So that's the video. I hope that helped you out understand aerobic septic systems a little bit better. This is just surface level. I mean, I'm out on a service call right now, so maybe one of these days I can explain things to you in a more relaxed setting. But I mean, there's no better place, I think, than actually seeing it as I'm doing the job and following my thought process while I'm out here, like what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing. And another thing on these aerobic systems, just some tips I would give to homeowners. Like I said, the manual on these says to pump these out at least every 3 years or so. I'm pretty sure in every state, these have to be inspected. So follow your inspector's recommendations. If they say you're due for a pump out, do it. Get on somebody's schedule, because the last thing you want is for this side to get so thick it clogs up the line and then you have a house full of poop. Like I said, install a bidet, get a diaper genie to put your paper or wipes away. Don't flush wipes at all. I know on these aerobics especially, mainly because they're kind of mostly located on the outskirts of big cities. So if somebody is used to living in city sewer and it makes it past the street, they could care less. They're gonna flush whatever they want. But when you're on a septic system, it is gonna stay in your back or front yard until it's pumped out again. So all those wipes, all that thick toilet paper, feminine products, definitely a no-go. It is going to decrease the time needed between pump outs, and it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this long form video. It's been a while since I made one, but I'm trying out a new camera system. It's really hot out here, so I'm mainly going for something that doesn't overheat. And as always, I appreciate y'all watching. If you're working out in this heat, make sure you stay hydrated, get some rest. Take a break if you need to. No job is worth your life. Y'all take it easy. Remember, smells like money.